This is a pretty basic recipe for a pretzel, so nothing too advanced, but it yields a good product. So let's get started. We have 1.5 cups of warm water. That looks more like a little bit more than 1.5 cups, so we'll get rid of some of that. There we go. 1.5 cups of warm water. We're going to add our yeast to. We're going to add our salts, our brown sugar, and our butter. If you want to pop your butter in the microwave ahead of time and melt it, it might be helpful if your water is not that warm. My water is probably around 100 degrees, so it's going to melt the butter right away. So now that we have everything mixed together, we're going to add it to the mixer. Then we're going to add 3/4 of our flour. Attach our dough hook. Lift the bowl and turn it to stir. Use a rubber spatula, push down the sides, make sure everything gets in there. Looks like everything's starting to come together, so I'm going to increase the speed to 4. Still looks a little wet, so we're going to drop it down to 2 again and add the rest of the flour. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. So now that our dough has really come together, we've moved up to 4. And it's not sticking to the sides of the bowl, but now it is. So you might want to add a little bit more flour. It's going to depend on the humidity of where you're at, the temperature. Put another 1/2 cup in there. Give it a stir to get it to come back together. Scrape down the sides of the bowl again. Stop the mixer and give it a test. Make sure it's not too sticky still. Push it down into the base of the bowl. Looks good. So we'll leave it at 4 for about a minute or 2 to knead it a little bit. While we're doing that, I'm going to take my 9 cups of water and baking soda and mix them up and get them on the stove so they can start to heat up and come to a boil. Alright, now that our dough's come together, got kneaded for a little bit. Take the dough hook out, take off any excess dough, grab the bowl, put a little flour on our cutting board, turn the dough out onto the board, just give it a quick knead. Then we're going to shape it into a log. It's about like 16 inches long and 2 inches thick, we'll say. And we're going to cover that with a wet towel and let it rest for 10 minutes. Our pretzels have rested for 10 minutes, so we will remove our wet towel or damp towel. See how it's doing, it hasn't stuck to the board any. Put a little bit more flour out just so we don't have any sticking. Roll it over. I'm not actually making pretzels, so we won't have to roll rods and do all the twisting. We're going to make pretzel sticks, which is definitely a little bit easier, at least in my opinion. So we're going to cut. About 3/4 of an inch, I would say. We're going to place them onto a sheet tray. Clean up our board real quick. And then we'll head over to the stove to give these a dip in the baking soda bath. So our baking soda bath has come to a boil and I reduced it down to a simmer. And we're going to start to dip. Do 3 or 4 at a time, I would say. I'm using my fish spatula. If you have a perforated spoon or some kind of strainer, that would work as well. We're going to leave them in for about 15 seconds. We're going to pull them out onto some kind of grate or something that will let them dry and the excess liquid fall off of them. I have a roasting rack right here that's in a hotel pan. So be careful with the extra flour on them. The more flour you add to this, the foamier it gets and the harder it is to see what you have going on in the pot. I learned this from experience. Testing is fun for sure. So if you leave them in too long, they'll end up with a metallic-y taste. So try not to do anything over, I'd say, 25 seconds. I found the 15 gave me like just the right amount, but 20 was probably a little bit darker on the color, but it was definitely nearing that metallic-y kind of flavor. So we have the last of our pretzel sticks in the pot right now. They have a few more seconds on them. We'll start to transfer our grains or somewhat dried sticks to our baking sheet. I would recommend using a silpat. If you don't have a silpat, parchment paper will work. Make sure you spray it a little bit though, because they will stick. So now that we're done that, we'll shut those off and transfer the remainder of our pretzel sticks to be baked. Now that we've transferred all of them to our baking sheet, we will sprinkle them with some Maldon salt or flake salt. Get pretzel salt as well if you were able to find it. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon. So there we go. and then into a 400-degree oven for 12 to 15 minutes. Once again, that all depends on your oven. If you have convection, they're probably going to go faster, but just keep an eye on them. You want them to be golden brown to a little on the mahogany side.